The 5 signals that predict disease before it starts opening. Before the diagnosis, disease does not begin the day you are diagnosed. It does not begin when a lab value crosses a threshold. It does not begin when pain appears. It begins quietly, chemically, gradually, years before symptoms. In this series, we explored breath signals, mitochondria, inflammation, stress, the gut, aging, and artificial intelligence. Now we bring everything together. Because underneath every chronic disease, there are 5 core physiological signals that begin drifting long before breakdown. If you understand these 5 signals, you understand the upstream architecture of health. And if you monitor them early, you change trajectory. Signal 1. Mitochondrial efficiency. Everything begins with energy. Every cell depends on ATP, and ATP depends on mitochondria. When mitochondria function efficiently, energy production is stable, reactive oxygen species remain balanced. Cellular repair proceeds normally, but when mitochondrial efficiency decline, electron leakage increases, oxidative stress rises, lipid peroxidation begins. This is the first subtle drift. Before heart disease, before diabetes, before neurodegeneration. Breath chemistry reflects this through aldehyde clusters, ketone variability, oxidative stress signatures. Signal number 1 is energy resilience. Without energy resilience, every system weakens. Signal 2. Oxidative load. Reactive oxygen species are natural byproducts of metabolism. In small amounts, they are signaling molecules. In excess, they damage lipids, proteins, and DNA. Oxidative stress accumulates when sleep is poor, diet is ultra-processed, stress is chronic, environmental exposure increases. Mitochondria become inefficient, lipid peroxidation produces volatile compounds. These compounds may appear in breath. Oxidative load is not a single event. It is cumulative chemistry. And cumulative chemistry accelerates aging. Signal number 2 is oxidative balance. Signal 3. Chronic inflammation. Inflammation is protective in the short term, but unresolved inflammation becomes destructive. Low-grade systemic inflammation drives atherosclerosis, insulin resistance, cognitive decline, autoimmune disorders. Inflammation alters metabolism, alters mitochondrial function, alters nitrogen balance, alters lipid breakdown, which alters volatile organic compounds. Inflammation rarely causes pain early, but it always leaves metabolic traces. Signal number 3 is inflammatory tone. Signal 4. Metabolic flexibility. Healthy metabolism adapts. It switches between glucose and fat seamlessly. It responds to fasting. It responds to exercise. It responds to sleep cycles. When flexibility declines, insulin resistance emerges, fat oxidation becomes erratic, energy stability weakens. Metabolic inflexibility is a precursor to type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease. Breath acetone variability may reflect fat oxidation patterns. Breath nitrogen markers may reflect protein metabolism imbalance. Signal number 4 is adaptability. Signal 5. Autonomic balance. The nervous system regulates everything. Sympathetic activation prepares for action. Parasympathetic activation restores. When balance exists, cortisol rises appropriately, mitochondria respond dynamically, inflammation resolves. When sympathetic dominance persists, cortisol remains elevated, oxidative stress increases, inflammation accumulates, stress becomes biochemical burden. Breath variability patterns may reflect autonomic strain. Signal number 5 is nervous system regulation. The system's MODL. These 5 signals are not isolated. They are interconnected. Mitochondrial inefficiency increases oxidative stress. Oxidative stress fuels inflammation. Inflammation impairs metabolic flexibility. Metabolic inflexibility stresses mitochondria. Chronic stress amplifies all 4. This is a network. Disease emerges when the network destabilizes, not when one organ fails. WHY breath metabolism. We cannot easily biopsy mitochondria. We cannot see oxidative stress directly. We cannot feel low-grade inflammation. But metabolic byproducts are volatile. They circulate. They diffuse into alveoli. They leave through breath. Breath is not magical. It is biochemical transparency, a non-invasive window into upstream physiology. The timeline OF-DRIFT is 0 to 5. Mitochondrial strain begins subtly. Year 5 to 10, oxidative load accumulates. Year 10 to 15, chronic inflammation stabilizes. Year 15 to 20, metabolic inflexibility becomes measurable. Year 20 plus, Structural disease emerges. Diagnosis appears at the end of the timeline, but signals drift decades earlier. The future OF Monitor imagine routine health checkups including breath metabolic profiling, AI pattern recognition, longitudinal trend tracking. Instead of asking, "Do I have disease?" you ask, "Are my 5 core signals stable?" Healthcare shifts from reaction to trajectory management. The empowerment FAC2R, the most powerful insight of this series, is not technology. It is agency. Mitochondrial efficiency improves with exercise. Oxidative load decreases with sleep and nutrition. Inflammation reduces with whole foods and stress regulation. Metabolic flexibility increases with movement and fasting cycles. Autonomic balance improves with breath training and recovery. The 5 signals are dynamic. They respond to behavior. That means trajectory is adjustable. What this series has really been about, this series was never just about breath. It was about upstream thinking. Understanding that disease is not random. It is the predictable outcome of cumulative drift. Understanding that energy comes first. Stress chemistry accumulates. Inflammation amplifies. Adaptability declines. Breakdown follows. Breath simply reveals the chemistry early. Cinematic closing. The whisper before the fall. Take a slow breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inside that breath are thousands of molecules. Tiny messengers. Carrying information about your energy systems. Your oxidative balance. Your inflammatory tone. Your metabolic flexibility. Your stress load. 5 signals. Always active. Always shaping your trajectory. The body does not suddenly break. It whispers. For years. Most of us ignore the whisper. But the future of health may belong to those who listen. Not to symptoms. Not to fear. But to chemistry. Before drift becomes damage. Before aging becomes frailty. Before disease becomes destiny. This is Health Reimagined, where we move upstream and choose trajectory.